All right, everyone. Hi, and thank you for tuning in today for our first Cloud Colombo meetup. So I would like to welcome all of you for joining in with us today. Sure. With the emergence of cloud technologies, many different industries have changed, positively impacted how developers work, developers' productivity, and it also brought in different practices, cultures, and of course, new job opportunities. Um, Over the years, I was fortunate to work closely with engineers, engineering teams. We were also conversing and arguing on many different tech topics. Um, Fortunately, DevOps is one of them. To talk about DevOps today, we have two active speakers from the DevOps community. So we have the first speaker, who's Anuradha Fernando. He's a DevOps architect at Palo Alto, Singapore. And we also have Arshad Zakaria. We call him Zach. So Zach is a senior DevOps engineer at Electrify Asia, Singapore. So let's welcome both to the show.
Hi.
Welcome, Anuradha. Welcome, Zach.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Hi.
So, yeah. So it's been a pleasure having both of you in the show, joining with us to share about your experience in terms of DevOps. So before we start off with the serious stuff, let's actually break some ice. Let's talk about what happened during the lockdown period. Because of the COVID-19, we saw there were different lockdown periods in different countries. And also we saw there were circuit breaker. There was circuit breaker here in Singapore as well. So what did you both miss the most during the lockdown period? Who would want to go first? Anuradha, Zach?
Okay, I'll go first. So,
Okay.
First of all, I would say I have moved to Singapore very recently, and of course, I'm enjoying a lot about my work and my office. So I live very closer to my office, and every day I take a walk from my home to office. And luckily, I'm passing a very nice green area with a very nice park. And I have a friend also there. Every day I meet him. So I miss both of these. One is the park, and also my so-called friend. So Shafi, if you can share my screen, let me show you both. Oh, so this is my friend and the park. So if you can see, I miss this cat because he's every day he's greeting to me, and also I miss this greeny view and the walk across the park. So yeah,
Wow.
I'm missing the walk.
That's really nice. That's really nice. And I think, like, for a moment, I thought it was a person, but apparently that was a cat.
Even I wasn't expecting that. Yeah.
All right, Zach, what did you miss the most?
So to be honest, I'm done with working from home. It's really boring now, and I really miss my office, Electrify, because it's like my second family. They are my colleagues, and we have a nice culture, and I really miss that. We always go to the hawker centers to have food, so I really miss the Amoy Street hawker center and the food. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's nice. So I think for me, of course, I really miss office because at office you would find a lot of food. And
I know.
also there are a lot of folks that knows about it.
We have been there.
Uh,
We have been there.
yes. So I really missed office, and then I also missed going out with my wife because we used to have date nights quite often. So that's something that I also missed. But all in all, I think a lot of countries have come down into a situation where they have kind of got rid of the lockdowns. There are no I would say there are no like circuit breakers or anything anymore. But it's always good to be safe and stay healthy as well. All right. So since we have missed quite a lot during lockdown period, that's pretty much about the situation that we had to face, right? So before we moving on to the questions, I would like to request all our viewers to post their questions in the comment section, and we'll pick up and get them answered during the Q&A session. There will be a Q&A session, and we'll be announcing some free trainings in the end. So stay tuned. Please do invite your friends to join the conversation, because there are a lot of people who are joining with us today has DevOps backgrounds, and also this will be like really useful for such individuals. So if you think this will be helpful for them, please do share and ask them to join the conversation. Comment in the comment section, either in Facebook or YouTube Live. Yeah, so that is actually the icebreaker that we want to have. So let's move on with the serious stuff, where we'll be asking some questions, and then Anuradha and Zach will give some answers based on their experiences and the knowledge that they have gained as well. All right. So you both have DevOps, the word DevOps in your title, and you both were in different career paths, and now you are in DevOps. I would say the culture. Can you explain your career journey and how you land up in becoming a DevOps engineer or a DevOps architect?
Okay, Zach, you want to go first, or shall I?
You can go first.
Okay, so I think Shafras, could you please share this slide?
Sure.
So this is my journey towards DevOps. So I have named it from ground zero to DevOps. So ground zero means not literally the zero, but GND is another term when we are heavily using in IoT and electronics, because I started my career as an embedded systems test engineer in Zone 24/7, 16 years back, sorry, in 2006. So, and then that time, actually I've been so lucky with my employers, because all the time when I switching my job, so I was getting involved with new change in the IT industry. So that was really, that helped me a lot to become a DevOps architect. So in having said that, so I will start from the DevOps. So I joined as a test engineer. So it's not just QA. So I had to write code. I had to break the things, and I've been busy with the code. Meanwhile, the same goal, I was helping to the systems team. So those days we didn't have operations or ops engineers. We didn't have cloud in early 2006. So what we had is a systems administrator, and they are responsible of managing the infrastructure. So frequently they asking my help to write automation scripts and help them to do their work easily. And I was in touch with them just as a hobby. And I love to see those servers, server racks, and these different so-called routers and all. So then later on, the development team also wanted my help from the systems perspective. So they asked me to write certain code to do certain automation. For example, when they have trouble accessing the operating system or hardware layers, they ask my help to help from the systems perspective. So that's how I was interacting with the both ends of the thing. And then in 2010, I joined with a company called Epona. And after that, later it's been acquired by Intel, and now it's under the Persistent Group. So in Epona time, I was very lucky enough, because that's the time where these terms Agile, TDD, and Scrum came into the picture. So back in the time, Zone 24/7, it was the end of the waterfall era. And Zone had a lot of trouble with that. And they came up with their own sort of fabulous processes. So I remember maybe there must be our audience from Zone 24/7. So they had an amazing framework called the Sony process. So it was very efficient at that time and catering for their ongoing projects. And then with the Intel, there was a highly agile organization, and they had Scrum and TDD kind of practices. But still, the term DevOps was not there. So I joined them as a deployment engineer, and my task is to go to the customer's premise and create the infrastructure, deploy our code, and do the integration and integration testing. So that's the second phase of my life, and then I moved to London Stock Exchange. So at the London Stock Exchange in 2015 time, so the term DevOps is emerging, and also there are a lot of new tools coming to the market. So one I can remember is Ansible. So I was lucky enough to play with very early versions of Ansible, and I have learned a lot of DevOps concepts while without knowing this is DevOps. So for example, I write my own CI/CD pipeline from Ansible to capture the triggers from the code repository and do the deployment to remote multiple platforms. So that's how I've been interacting with the London Stock Exchange. So especially with Millennium IT, so they had this culture like whenever they need something, they build it. So they don't download from someone else's code. So it works either way. So what I see the beauty is, so they study it and they do their own thing. So that is really amazing. So in from there, I have learned a lot of this DevOps related stuff and the cloud matters and automation and some advanced Python and all. The same go, I was exposed to the server and infrastructure environment, the different processes and various processes in the data center world. And later on, after working for London Stock Exchange for some time, I joined with another great organization called Mitra Innovation. So they have two main line of business. One is cloud, and the other one is WSO2 integration. So for both of them, they needed DevOps expertise, and I was there to give them the technology help. And what I was lacking and what I was missing, the missing piece of this puzzle was I was not got the opportunity to expose into the business world and with clients and understand what are their requirements. So at Mitra Innovation, I got that empowerment, and I was allowed to go and meet customers, and I've been able to work with the clients and understand their requirement, and I've been working as an ambassador between the clients and the internal staff. So that's how I completed the few steps throughout this journey. And then I moved to Singapore and joined with Palo IT as a DevOps architect. So when we talk about Palo, it's a very huge enterprise. Like I would say, there are a lot of offices around the world, and a lot of talented professionals are working throughout different domains. So when I see the Palo IT with my past experience, I see everything together as one whole unit. So we have end-to-end, I would say, the full spectrum DevOps practices are there with Palo. And that's why I'm enjoying my work and still learning a lot. And
Awesome.
DevOps is just one piece. Every day you have to learn something. So yeah, that's how it is.
Wow. That was quite a journey,
Yeah.
Anuradha.
Thank you.
Awesome. So Zach, what was your background? From where do you come?
So I started my career in 2010. So basically, I was joined as a web developer. I was developing Magento, Drupal websites those days with PHP and some of basic development knowledge, because that's my intro to the career. And after that, after completing there like 1 year, then I decided the person who was doing the system stuff, he left the company. So I took that part. So those days, I remember we were using Rackspace servers. So then we were using Rackspace. Then I moved more into Linux. Then I learned a lot of Linux and open source tools and stuff. Then I realized, okay, I'm more into operation rather than development. So I chose that path. So I was doing that. And same time, I was doing some scripts as well, Bash scripts. That's my programming, using my program knowledge. And after that, I joined a company called InBay. It's a UK-based, a system support providing company, and I joined as a system support engineer. And after that, I got opportunity in Doha, Qatar, as a systems engineer for a mobile application development company, it's a startup. So there I learned a lot. So there only I started my AWS career in 2014. So I touched first my AWS console and was doing some setting up all the infrastructure. Then after that, what happens? I don't know if these are the incidents or coincidence. So the person who was doing the web services using REST API, he left. Then I took that part and I was doing that one as well. So part of the operation and development. So without knowing, same like Anwar said, I was doing DevOps. It's a culture and practice. So I was doing the same. And after that, I came back to Sri Lanka after working there 2 years. Then I joined a company called NetStarter. It's an e-commerce platform agency. And I would say honestly, I'm really glad to say that that's a place I learned a lot. I achieved a lot of certifications and I met a lot of people. I learned the culture of DevOps and the culture of proper software development organization and stuff. So more than 3 years, I learned a lot of things there, and there only I sharpened my everything. After that, I got opportunity in Singapore, Electrify Asia. We are a P2P energy trading platform, and it's a startup. But I would say still, I would happy to say we are maintaining a good DevOps culture here. When you compare to, personally, I know a lot of companies are not more into DevOps culture and still doing some manual stuff, but I'm responsible. I can say we are doing best DevOps practice in our organization. So that's how I came to this place. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think Anuradha and Zach, both of you had a wonderful journey together in becoming DevOps, choosing DevOps as a career now. And it was not something which was there for you when you started off, right? The reason that we asked this question was there are a lot of youngsters, there are people who want to move into a DevOps career. They don't know, they think that, hey, DevOps, if you know DevOps, it just, you can get started with that very easily. But if you see both of these professionals, they have different backgrounds and they have been exposed to a lot of different areas as well. So which means that's something that you also might want to consider in gaining. All right. So so the first question, apart from the career progression, now we are moving on to the DevOps part, right? So the first question I'm going to ask is from Anuradha. So Anuradha, what's DevOps? Is it another name to call the system support team, or is it a fancy name for the support team?
Okay, very interesting question. So before answering what's DevOps, I would say what is not DevOps, right? So when the name heard to us, DevOps, okay, so now everybody's talking about DevOps, Ansible, Kubernetes, Docker. So a lot of tools are there. So DevOps, is it just a tool? Oh, and I heard some people saying, okay, DevOps is collaboration. Is it collaboration? Or maybe it's AWS or Google Cloud or Azure, right? Or else is it about automation? So because all the DevOps guys are doing automation, and when you see a job advertisement or something, they're asking for automation, Kubernetes or Docker likewise. So let's see first what is not DevOps and what are the concepts of DevOps and why DevOps is there. So if Shafraz can share my screen.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So here, okay, we'll see about a lot of myths about DevOps. So DevOps is it just CI/CD? So that's the main stereotype. Like when we hear about DevOps, we think it is CI/CD. Can you see my screen? Just to reconfirm. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
we can.
Oh, okay. So if not, is it Jenkins or Bamboo or GitLab? Or is it automation or a role or a cloud provider? So I would say none of these are DevOps, but these are part of the big picture of DevOps, small connected parts, connected dots of the DevOps. So I would say why we wanted the DevOps process. The DevOps is a kind of a process to empower the teams to work towards the same goal, same shared goal with shared responsibilities, right? So imagine in early days, so we've been developing monoliths with waterfall or some other custom process, but by that time the team had to work with the code and they have to wait until 1 month or 3 weeks to do a software release. So if there's a bug fix, then the customer had to wait for a very long time, and when the fix is ready for the production, so there must be multiple fixes from the other developers. So when that comes to the picture, so things becoming very complicated. So, and also there is a distinct between the developers and the operation people, operation engineers. So whenever a developer do a change and ready to production, the operation engineer is having trouble. He can't violate his procedures, his standards, and the policies. So then this distance make a lot of difficulties and a lot of performance degrades. So that was a main problem addressed by DevOps. And the second thing, I still remember when my very early days, we had a 3 hours long meeting with a couple of project managers and developers and having arguments for a simple feature. But now we are handling more than that, and we are handling a lot of complex issues in a very little amount of time. So that's why we wanted DevOps, because the customer's demand is increasing and customer need more frequent changes, and the change frequency is very high, getting higher, and the software we develop is getting complicated day by day. And the team is working also very widespread, and there may be team members in different geolocations, different cities, and also working in the same code at the same time. So we need to way to orchestrate this ecosystem. It's not just tooling, not just code. There are three main pillars, which is, one is the technology, and that comes the tool. The second thing is process, and the third aspect is people. So bringing all these three stakeholders together and making the collaboration and empowering them to work for the same shared goal, the same shared with the same shared responsibilities. That's what I see as DevOps. And also collaborating between developers and the operations.
Wow.
And also, there are three ways of DevOps, as according to the Gene Kim, the author who write the DevOps handbook, and also some other books. I believe Zach is having a lot to tell about those. So, as per Gene Kim, there are three main ways of doing DevOps. One is the flow, feedback, and continuous learning. So if you see, flow means the flow of process from left to right. The left represent the development, the right represent the operations. So in early days, there was an imaginary wall between dev and ops. So all the time there are firefights, like, okay, when the release is ready, operation team is finding some errors, some problems, then they are bouncing it back, and then development is saying, no, we have done our job, now you have to deploy it. So this back and forth kind of the release bouncing should not be happen. That's what we mean by flow. The second thing is feedback. Okay, so when something happening from development to operations, always the operation teams providing feedback from right to left, from operations to development. So the development teams knows what's going on in the production or their perspective environments. So what happens is, at every bug, every production issue, every incident, or any sort of security problem, the operation teams is providing this feedback to the development team, so the development team can work on it, and they can quickly provide a solution, and they can quickly do a workaround, and they can mark it as a lesson learned. So they can avoid these problems and make the software much stable, and also much reliable. The third thing is continuous learning, which is doing experiments, taking risks, and improving, taking risk and doing experiment to improve the quality of what we deliver. then at every iterative deployment cycle, we have something new learned, and that will be feeding back again to the backlog of the developer. So the developer can work with new improvements. So that is the three way of doing DevOps. And also there are about principles and practices in DevOps. So obviously the first thing is about customer. The customer's demand is very high. They need very frequent releases. They need frequent feedback, and also they're asking a lot of things. The second thing is lean. What is lean? Lean means like getting rid of unwanted or bulky stuff and making the things cleaner. So that's what lean means in here. So we can get rid of the time consuming and expensive kind of stuff, and always go with optimal and optimized way, and then automate everything. So obviously you can't automate everything, right? But whenever it is possible to automate, then in DevOps principles you can do automation. Like I said in earlier, when we learn something, you can always try to do automating. Like for example, when I was working for Intel, so I had to work with around 20 servers, right? Every day morning, the first thing I had to do is to log in into these 20 servers through a jump host. So that take around 15 minutes. That took because I have to copy and paste passwords from different location, and sometimes the internet speed is low. So then it's like wasting a lot of time, right? So it's like 15 minutes per day, and if the connection get bounced, then I have to log in again. So what I have done is I was thinking to automate it. So that time we had a beautiful terminal called Terminator. So you might know about it. Like there's the interface, you can script it, and you can automate the entire login process. So then I managed to bring it down to 1 minute to log in into all these servers. Likewise. And the other thing is about cross-functional teams. This is very important because in early days we had silos, right? Okay, we are DevOps and we are not responsible for testing the code. Okay, I'm the developer. I don't like to do QA, right? Okay, I'm QA. I'm not doing infrastructure. So those are a lot of silos. These silos making the delivery process very resistive. Like there are a lot of friction between these silos. But when you come into a collaborated team, like going for the same goal, so your task is not to run the test cases. So your task is not to build the code or not to deploy the code, but your task is to deliver to the customer, right? So when it comes to that mindset, the cross-functional teams becoming one shared team, that's a DevOps team. So I have seen that in my previous companies and my current employment also. So these I can see a significant difference between my early days and now when I'm comparing. Like for a minor change, it took like 1 month to deliver that change to the customer in previous cases, but now it's like it's a couple of hours or a couple of minutes. That's how the performance increased. And like I said, the last one is end-to-end responsibilities, because all the team members have shared responsibilities. So they all are in the coherence and also in the proper synchronization. So they are propagating towards a common goal. And when it comes to practices in the left-hand side, the first thing is obviously CI and CD. CI stands for continuous integration, so we'll be discussing it at later point. CD means continuous deployment, and also there's another CD which is continuous delivery. So there's a difference between continuous deployment and continuous delivery, because continuous deployment is just putting your code into a given environment, right? But it doesn't mean your deployment will be directly going to the production. It might be end up at the development environment or testing environment or a UAT. But moving into production is a different story, right? So you can obviously do it, but the problem comes in, you can't guarantee or you can't trust these automated robots all the time, right? What if something goes wrong? What if they have enabled an unnecessary feature? Like there are concepts like feature toggling and feature branching kind of things. So if a wrong feature went online, that's a disaster, right? So I know there are some companies went bankrupted in a couple of hours due to these feature toggling issues.
Yeah.
Likewise, So that's why we need a manual intervention. So you might think, why we need manual if it is DevOps and if it is automated? No, still there should be another pair of eyes should see and authorize the release to production. So that's how the continuous delivery comes in. And IAC, I'm pretty sure everybody of you knows it about infrastructure as a code. So then you can you can programmatically define your infrastructure, and that's really helpful in changing environment and frequent changes to your infrastructure. So a new team member comes in, he can spin up his own, excuse me, own environment within seconds. And likewise, the same way in automation, like I said, all the time you can do automation. There are a lot of automation tools available. If there are no tools available, you can still do it using currently available languages like Python or Rust, even Lua or Golang likewise. And there's one other major part, which is version controlling. So DevOps is most of the time, everything is versioned, including infrastructure as code, automation, even metadata and configuration as well. So you have to keep these artifacts version well, and also manage your configuration as well. So there are tools like Ansible and a lot of Puppet and a lot of tools are there, ClearCase, to do the configuration management. And software quality is also playing a crucial role in here. Nowadays, the software testing engineers are not just running test cases. So they also need to do development. They have to write or test automation scripts, and they have to work with the DevOps team, work within the DevOps team, and they have to borrow the role DevOps to do their work, because especially with modern, even microservices kind of architecture, you can't do it in a linear fashion. You have to work with a lot of dependencies. So then they need to take apart and they have to understand what happened. And the tester should be able to spin up their infrastructure, do the deployment, and do automation likewise. The last thing is, but not least, is the monitoring, because monitoring is a very crucial thing. From the code commit to the post deployment, monitoring should be there at each stage of the CI and CD pipelines. And after the production also, you have to monitor it. So these metrics are always been captured by our DevOps team members, and make the necessary decisions and correcting their trajectory. And also throughout the pipeline, also there are a lot of ways to capture build metrics, like what is the build time and the error rate, the build frequency, failure rate. Like there are a lot of build metrics are there. So these are helping to improve your process, and also it is an indication of where you are in your DevOps maturity. Finally, let me explain about harms in DevOps. So there are few principles called CARMs, which is culture, automation, lean, measurement, and sharing, which I've been already explaining to you. So the CARMs is very important in DevOps, which is the culture. So there should be a people first mindset, and the people should be empowered to do to work within the team and propagate to a shared goal and responsibility. So they should be allowed, and the environment should be very feasible to do tests and take risks. And also things can go wrong, so they need to accept the failures as well. Secondly, the automation, you already know. The lean I explained. Measurement, again, you need to have a lot of telemetry in your pipelines, and also the post-production as well. And sharing. So sharing means it's a team activity. So every day we have to discuss and collaborate with the team, and from the right to left and left to right, you have to share and propagate through the common goal. So at a nutshell, I would say DevOps is a kind of way of working towards a common goal with shared responsibilities, and empowering the team, and bringing down the gap between development and operations, and also breaking the silos. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. So I think Anurag gave like a very fully fledged answer in terms of what's DevOps and how you could use it, what are the best practices, what people's thought processes are. So we can move on to the second question, which obviously will be focused towards Zach. So Zach, as a DevOps engineer, what do you think what truly matters the most? Is it the skills? Is it the certification? Is it knowing tools or having a growth mindset?
I would start with saying that having a growth mindset and start from the basics. You should know what you're doing, and don't think like, okay, I'm not a developer, I should not doing this part, and I'm not operation person, I should not doing this part. But it's not like that. Like Anurag said, it's kind of a collaborative work, and DevOps is not a one person work. For my perspective, it's like a kind of a team culture, like collaborative and like integrate everything. Like it matters with development, operations, QA, everything. And for when it comes to certifications, to be honest, I'm not a person who believes in certifications. Yes, even I do certifications, but still we can't justify anyone, or you can't justify anyone like saying, okay, he has this certificate, that means he's expert on this area. But no, like Anurag said, even me myself, we are learning day to day. Something comes new, so we have to keep learning. A certificate is also like, it's valid maybe 2 or 3 years. So AWS certification usually 3 years. Kubernetes certificates, I think 2 or 3 years, same as well, and Google also same. So don't depend on certifications. If you want to do certifications, yes, do it, but the intention should be not to pass the certificate or exam, to gain that knowledge, go deeper and learn more, and follow a right course. Don't do exam dumps and try to do the exams. I think current certifications, you can't do like doing the dumps and pass the exams. It will check your knowledge, but do the certifications. But don't do it for sake of just pass the exam. Just study to gain that high score and gain the knowledge first. Because if you're doing a certificate just for getting the certificate, and if you're not going to use it, that the things you will learn, it's no point for you or your organization as well. So if you're working in an organization, please do certifications, because you have to learn new things and you have to implement those things in your organization. And same time, the career build is really, really important. So it comes to the skills as well. Yes, there are a lot of skills and tools in the industry now, like automation, like Anurag mentioned, that Ansible, Chef, Puppet. So orchestration tool for containers, Kubernetes, and containerization platforms like Docker, Cryo. There are a lot of tools are there. So tools are there, yes. But today we have these Kubernetes. Tomorrow we might get a new one. We don't know. So keep update your skills and tools. So I will give advice which told by one of my mentor before, like when I was 5 or 6 years ago. He always told me, okay, he gave me a good example. I will tell that here now. If you have, okay, 2 persons are there, 1 person, 2 person, they have to cut both trees. They're separate trees, and they're giving separate axes. So axes are not much sharp. It's okay shape. So they're giving like 10 hours to cut down that tree. Okay, I'm not spreading a news to cut any trees. Don't do it. I love environment. So it's just example. So 1 person, what they're doing is just going there, just trying to cut. He's spending around like 9 hours to cut down the tree. So he's kind of working hard person. So other person is working smart. What he's doing is he's sharpening like kind of that axe a proper way, and checking all the edges. It took him like around like 30 minutes to do that, and he cutting down the tree within like 1 hour. Okay, so you see what I'm trying to tell is here. If you're weak in something, just don't worry, just go and improve your skills, because I'm okay with fail. Even I have failed some exams as well. It's okay to fail. It's okay to fail a deployment, but you should have a proper plan to come back again. You learn, and you should come back with correcting your mistakes and come back. So better to keep your skills, but same times you have to improve, upgrade your skills. That's the color of our the DevOps culture and the industry. You can't stagnate. A lot of people have seen, a lot of people stagnate. Okay, I know this. Okay, I'm going to stagnate. I'm going to stick with this. No, but you have to keep learn day to day because new things are coming. Read blogs, go and read some articles. I've seen. So I think Shafra's blog is sharing a lot of things, and even me. For if you have anyone from Sri Lanka, go to DevOps.lk. We have a DevOps Sri Lanka group, and you can we are sharing a lot of stuff there. A lot of events are going, and a lot of collaborating things are going on. You can ask, and you can ask anyone in the industry what are the things they're going on, because I have seen a lot of people coming with lack of skills. They have the idea, but they don't know how to approach that because they're lacking of the skill. So those, what am I saying is like advice for those who are listen to this, please improve your skills. Don't worry. If you think, okay, it will take like one month to do it. So don't worry. Just take that 1 month and just improve those skills. And I believe a lot of organizations and their events are going on. Just go for that. I believe a lot of people not willing to go and learn, just going for sake of just going. No, not like that. Just go and learn. Ask questions. If you have questions, that's good. Just ask any questions. Don't think if it's a stupid question and if I get humiliated in front of everyone. No, even I do ask. Even you do ask, right? Everyone asks questions.
Yeah.
So if you have more questions, that means you go more learn. So don't worry. Never shy to ask a question. Even if the person is younger than you, just go and ask. If you're elder than you, go and ask. Because a lot of people have this attitude that for improve their skills, they're not going to. They are having this the barrier to do that. So skills, please. That's my advice. Improve your skills before you touch anything. Don't do any half-baked cakes. Like Anuradha said, you can make a company bankrupt within a release. That can happen. So don't do that. I have few experiences as well like that. So don't do it. So certifications likewise, yes. Do the certification. I'm not saying don't do it, but do it for your knowledge and use it. I have seen a lot of people just doing certifications in a row, but if you ask any questions, they have no idea. But I have seen a lot of people, they don't have certifications. They are very expert in that area. That doesn't mean so. Don't judge anyone with a certificate. This person has this much of certifications and this person has this much certification. Don't do that. And yes, so finally, Safras, what I'm saying, what I tell is like keep your mindset up. Just be focused, keep the willpower, and focus what you're doing. Yes, tools and skills are really important, but before you do something, you should know what you are doing, and you should have the passionate to do these things. Otherwise, no point. So please go ahead with that. If you have any question later, we can discuss. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So Zach explained a lot of areas in terms of why it's important to improve on your skills, certifications, and also knowing tools on a regular basis, like updating your knowledge and having a growth mindset, which actually help you to kind of grow in many different ways. So having said that, Anuradha was discussing about CI/CD before in his explanation about DevOps. And when it comes to DevOps, in recent years, you might have seen like a lot of people talking about CI/CD. Some people might know what CI/CD, some people might not know what CI/CD and how it's actually working close hand in hand with DevOps. So Anuradha, can you give us brief intro or maybe tell us what CI/CD and how is it connected to DevOps?
Of course. So yeah. So about CI and CD, everybody have heard this at least. So first thing I have to say, DevOps is not CI and CD. So CI and CD is a part of DevOps. So CI stands for continuous integration. Let's see what is continuous integration, right? So when I see continuous integration, the best metaphor is like if you have seen in a construction site, the way the people do make these concretes, right? So you have seen people are passing these baskets with sand or cement, and one person is throwing water into that concrete mixture, And when the concrete is ready, another guy, a series of other people passing the ready-made concrete into a different place. So that is kind of a continuous integration. Like a lot of people are gathering together for a common goal, for a common end product. So likewise, in the early days, we had integration, right? It is not that continuous because, like I said earlier, in a waterfall kind of approach, myself and Zach, we both are working in the same code, right? So I'm deleting certain lines and he's adding more lines. So after 1 month, so 8 weeks, 6 weeks, so when Shafras want to merge the code, then there are a lot of conflicts, right? So it's not only myself and Zach, there are hundreds of developers, millions of lines. And when it comes to handle like tens of thousands of merge conflicts and issues, then it will become a disaster. So those days we used to call it as a merge hell or similar word like that. So that is a problem, right? So that's why in DevOps what we are doing is we we have break it into small pieces, and we both, myself and the other one, is working in the same code repository, but we have our version of copy of it, and it's between myself and him. So if me and him are working with that little piece of code, and when I do a merge or when I do a commit, and if there's a difference or a conflict, then me and him can sit together and decide it and discuss it and resolve it very easily. And we don't need to wait until the end of the month, so we can do it instantly, immediately. So that's the beauty of it. But again, when the number of changes, number of developers are getting increased, so we can't track it manually, right? So there should be a mechanism to watch the developer, and wait until developer do a commit, and then there should be a system which triggers and then do all these fancy things. So that is what we call the continuous integration, which is whenever developer commit the code or whenever something pre-programmed event happened, the CI server with, let's say, Jenkins or Bamboo or GitLab, so what it does is it just download the code into one of its instances, and then it is building the code and doing all the tests like code quality, security, functional, whatever, and then make sure everything is in order. If the code build failed, or if any of these pieces in this chain failed, it can bounce back and report an error, so developer knows what happened and he can work on it. Excuse me. So in the meantime, we have an artifact build. If the build successful, we have a binary and we stored it in a place called an artifact. So that is a repository to keep artifacts. And now I have a ready-made binary, so my test team can grab it and they can deploy it into one of their environments, and they can play around with it. They can try to break it. If it is possible, that means they have found bugs, then they can bounce it back again to the developer. And if not, it can pass one step further and deploy it into another environment, which would be, say, a UAT, user acceptance test, or SIT, or pre-production, or whatever. And then if the testers, if the client, and if the auditors are happy, then you can push it into the production. So that is the combination between continuous integration and continuous deployment. So continuous integration is the checking out the code, building, testing, packaging, and moving into Artifactory or bouncing it back. Continuous deployment is to automatically, when the artifact is ready, it is deployed to relevant environments and make it ready for the testers, which could be automated tests or it could be manual tests. So usually what I have seen is what first happens is automated tests happening in the development and test environments, and then it is moving to a UAT. So the manual testers can take time and they can do their UAT manually, and in the meantime, there's another branch going to maybe a load testing or automated security testing or SaaS or what do you call it, static or dynamic DAST or SAST kind of approach. And then when it's ready, when the folks can do, when the team can do a manual code review or deployment review, they can push it into the production. And even further in our modern deployment and delivery pipelines, there are approaches like canary deployments, blue-green deployments, just to make sure we are doing the right thing and keeping the redundancy. So it's if you can share my screen, this
Yeah.
is just a snapshot of a pipeline, which is not fully completed, but just as an example, if you see here, this is the code repository, and this is our master branch, which is the main version of the code. And there are feature branches, which are developers working on different bug fixes or different feature implementation. And when they commit the code, this build server triggers and do a build. And same go, it will do sort of test automation around it, like do code quality testing, static scanning, and there are a lot of stuff happening in this phase, like just to test the code is quality and code is in a proper standard. And then if everything goes fine, if the build successful, the checks okay, then it will package and build an artifact. So this could be a Docker image, this could be a binary file, it could be a Windows installer package, whatever, and then it can be deployed it into a different environment. So this is automated continuous deployment. And you can see then the deployment environment, the testers, the test engineers can do testing. It could be either automated or manual. And you can see this big arrow. So what does that mean is this arrow represent the manual intervention. So this is where the manual tests, load test, and the audits happen. So if this phase completed, then the release can be pushed into the production environment. So again, just to summarize, what CI/CD is enabling developers to collaborate and work on the same code base and frequently deliver their changes and continuously deliver it into the production without conflicts. So that's the summary of it.
Awesome. So I think that gives us a very good understanding about what is CI/CD, how it's being connected, and I think Zach, if you can mention what are the tools which are usually being used in CI when building CI/CD pipelines.
Well, to be honest, start with Jenkins. That's a main tool. And Jenkins is like you can bake your own cake. You can put whatever models you want, and it will support any platforms and stuff. And there are a lot of other tools as well, Circle CI. And because we are more into AWS, I am using currently AWS Code Pipeline and Code Build because using all AWS technologies. But no need to use exactly this one, but choose what the tools more suitable, appropriate for you. Like Anurag said, be lean. Don't need to put everything and just mix it up. Just be lean and just pick what are the exact correct CI/CD tools you want, and please use it. So and like he said, when you're using a pipeline, don't need to mess everything with a lot of functions. Just pipeline should be very simple, and it should be easily deliverable. So I would say Jenkins is good, Circle CI is good. For if you're using AWS, Code Pipeline is good because it can interconnect everything your AWS tools together very easily.
Just to add something, GitLab also good.
Huh? Sorry, GitLab also good. I forgot. I'm really sorry.
So there are a lot of integrations, like
there are a lot
of aspects with Kubernetes and something similar to Jenkins X. There are Kubernetes version of it, and a lot of integrations, lot of facilities, and auto DevOps, and a lot of easy to use stuff are there. Yeah.
All right, cool. So actually, we are moving on to the final question, which is being asked by a lot of people, where people have a lot of doubts, trying to figure out which one is what. So I think most of it was cleared up during the conversation. But just to summarize, Anuradha and Zach, so containers, Docker, Kubernetes, DevOps, all these words, how are these connected into one picture?
I think Nilesh is in the chat already.
Yeah.
So okay. So first of all, let's see what is a container. Do you think it's good to explain what is a container first, and then let's move forward?
Yeah. We can.
So Let me share my screen where it is. Okay, this is some old presentation I have made. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, container is a kind of a virtualization method. Like in old days, we had a server, physical bare metal server, and on top of that, an operating system, and then we had an hypervisor. On top of the hypervisor, we had virtual machines, right? But when it comes to containers, container is a kernel process which is isolated from the other processes, which is running on top of the host operating system. But it is purely isolated process. So why we need a container? That's a very good question everybody has. Why we need a container? Because the main reason is uh, which containers trying to address is many people say, okay, the software is the code is working fine in my machine, but it is not working in others' machine. So maybe the code is working in developer's machine, but it is not working in the production or the test environment. So that is one challenge which Docker address. And the other thing is portability. Like, so imagine, okay, recently I wanted to install Atlassian Confluence, right? So in old days, if I wanted to do that, I had to download Confluence, I had to download a database server, and then configure this, connect this, and do a lot of stuff. But within one or two commands, now I can do it thanks to Docker, because Docker has a huge repository called Docker Hub. It has images for all the software you know almost all the for all the software, and within one command you can spin up a virtual container, and then you can do your work, and then when it's done, you can, if you want, you can move it to production. If not, you can discard. So container is kind of an isolated environment to run software with configurations, and you can do all the pre-built library installation and everything. So typically a container is a very lightweight version of it. So only the software and supporting libraries are there. So everything has been removed and isolated from the other processes in the operating system. So why? So Docker is the one of the most famous container engines in the world. And why we need something called Kubernetes? So the reason is, in a given application or a given solution, we have more than one container, right? So there could be hundreds of thousands of containers, and the operation needs to keep an eye on these containers and make sure these are running smoothly. So what if one container failed? Then they have to go and manually bring it up. Okay, so and if the application load is very high, they need to replicate the number of containers. They need to generate more containers to cater the load. So then, due to that reason, we need somebody to orchestrate these containers and manage manage the interactions between these containers. So that's why we have a thing called Kubernetes. So what Kubernetes does is it's orchestrate the containers in different multiple host environments. So that's basic about containers, Docker and Kubernetes. Now let's see how and why we need this into DevOps. Like if you can see in my pipeline here, so this can be incorporated in all the aspects as we need it, but it doesn't matter. Kubernetes is a must. If you really need Kubernetes, you can use it. Like there are certain instances you can't use Kubernetes, or it is not worth to use it because it could be a very simple deployment. But if it is very complex, and if it is specially dealing with microservices and service isolation kind of things, then definitely Docker and Kubernetes would be a great thing. Now, if you see in this continuous integration and continuous delivery workflow, there are different steps. In my practice, I have seen the build step generate a package. This package could be a binary file, or it could be something executable. In early days, if we had an exe file for Windows, we can't run it most of the time, right? So you can remember there are a lot of files needed to run it, like libcrt and glibc. Like there are a lot of dependencies are there. So then whoever needs to do this binary installation in the environment, they have to copy these libraries as well. So that's kind of a hassle, right? So when you do it repetitively, then you have to rely with those libraries, third-party configurations, components, and certain custom configurations. So what if this package building step can generate a Docker image? So then that Docker image bundles the application with the latest version and all the dependencies, and maybe some configurations as well, or a set of default configurations. And then this Docker image can be used by all the other stakeholders and do their work. If you have Docker installed in all these environments, they can use Docker. And if you have Kubernetes, you can easily deploy this the image as a deployment in your Kubernetes environment. And the main reason I see, the main benefit of Kubernetes I see is, when it comes to a pipeline or a CI/CD approach, you can easily manage multiple environments with namespace. So in Kubernetes, there's a good concept called namespaces. So you can isolate your environments based on namespaces. For example, for the development environment, you have a development namespace. For QA environment, you have a QA namespace. So that way, you can do things separately. And since it is generating in the build scope, it is generating the Docker image and pushing into the Artifactory. We call it the Docker registry. So simply, these Kubernetes deployment scripts or deployments can grab these images very easily. So that's the most convenient thing, and this is how it helps for CI and CD. But the major advantage is when it comes to production. So if we have a Kubernetes deployment in production, it helps you in multiple ways. One is the stability. Like if you have correctly set up your Kubernetes environment, especially like if you go for a hosted environment like GKE or EKS, then it is the control plane is much stable. And if you have done your deployments in the right way, if you have tuned it in the right proper way, so the software will be very, the platform will be very reliable, and it has fault tolerance, scalability, and monitoring, and everything is in place. That's the major advantage. The second thing is, if something goes wrong, you can roll it back to the previous version. That's the second thing. And also, Kubernetes support multiple deployment methods, like for example, like blue green or canary kind of deployment. Especially for canary deployment, that means like 70% of your pods are running in version 1, or you can try the rest of 30% with version 2. So if something goes fail, you can deal with that very easily. So I would say throughout the pipeline process, you can reduce the number of instances you use, because most of the times these environments are volatile, are temporary environments which you don't need to host all the time. So when you need it only, it can spin up and do your work, and when it's not needed, you can discard it. So that's one benefit. The other thing is mainly the way it helps in the production environment. Yeah, that's how I see the help of Kubernetes and Docker containers.
Awesome. So Zach, do you have anything that you want to add into
I will
what
add
Anurag mentioned?
with my I will add some of my personal experience. Like I think it's better to apply to that the theory part Anuradha has explained. So we were doing a lot of manual stuff, to be honest. So then we were decided to we'll go with Kubernetes, and we deployed. Then to be honest, everything was very smooth and fast. Everything in one flow. Like we set up all our pipelines and stuff, so developers don't need to worry about anything. Everything deploying smoothly, nothing to worry. So and all the applications are containerized. So we are also using Docker, and with I would say it's like siblings. Docker and Kubernetes, they together work very nicely. Yeah. So and it's help us to in cost perspective. We are saving a lot of money with hosted, managed Kubernetes service like EKS or GK when you're using it, or else you can find third party other Kubernetes managed platforms as well.
Awesome. So I think that actually wraps up our like questions that we had that we wanted to ask from the speakers, and we can actually move into our Q&A session. But before moving into Q&A session, there are a couple of announcements that I mentioned. There will be free trainings available. So let me show you the links which are available for the moment. And if you're a person who are looking forward to take Google Cloud's Associate Cloud Engineer, there's a 30% discount that you could get from the link that you see, gwo.gle/GCP-cert offer, which you can get. And if you are interested in learning about tools, technologies within Google Cloud, you could go to this particular link, so you could get free training available as well. So those are two free trainings which are available that we wanted to mention in this conversation. And I think there are some interesting questions which has popped for our speakers. So I think so. Let me pick the question from Harzuan. Harzuan is asking this question: how does one roll back applications that rely on database? If the database already has migration applied to it, then wouldn't old application main conflict with the state of the DB? So the question is up, and you might Anuradha, Zach, who wants to take the question?
Yeah, it's a kind of a tricky question. I completely understand what you mean, because I have gone through this even before DevOps. Like we have done a database migration, and we have found something wrong in the release, so we need to roll it back. But the database is in the N+1 version. So basically, the best way is, like, before doing a database migration, as a practice, we take a database backup, right? So we can do that data rollback on database as well, but it is not completely reliable. But that's one way you can handle that problem. Like, it is not automated, but you need to deal with the manual intervention. That.
Awesome. So
I think, the migrations like Liquibase, you can do rollback. I'm not very sure. I think Liquibase has a rollback mechanism itself. If you do database migrations with Liquibase like software, that has that feature.
Yeah,
I think otherwise, I mean, my personal experience, this came across even previous events. Also, the same question is asked. So, or else you needed a downtime. It's a major one, or else proper rollback. Yeah, like Anna said. My previous experience, when we working with e-commerce platforms, we did a lot of downtimes when we are doing migration like that, because working with money.
Awesome. Okay. So Nilesh is asking a question. It's pointed towards Anuradha. Candidate deployments on delivery, etc. You cannot get Kubernetes native support. There's a bit of architecture needing for that.
Of course, it is a bit tricky. You have to play with Istio and some other tools also. But I was referring, like, mainly, like, in your deployment plan, you can configure it to go for a percentage for a ratio. I can't exactly remember the term, but you can do it. But it is not technically a canary deployment. But for a given percentage of pods, you can do it. I have done it in one of the previous instances, so probably I can sync up with Nilesh later on this.
Awesome. So if you have any more questions, please do comment below.
I think we missed one question from Nilesh. He was asking about SRE and DevOps.
Yeah.
So that's a very, very interesting question. So
I would say,
I would say the both DevOps and SRE are addressing the same thing, but SRE is more like an implementation of DevOps. The thing is, when it comes to DevOps, if we find a production issue, we push it back to the development team, and they are working it on a bug fix or a feature, right? But in DevOps, in SRE, the SRE team is capable of everything. Like, so they are empowered, and they are willing to do the bug fixes in the production by them itself. It's like sort of a sustaining team. fixing the production issues on the fly without going back to that cycle. So SRE team, I would say it's a very kind of a implementation of a special DevOps team, because they're supposed to be doing security, deployment, development, systems, and everything, even project management. So they are capable of that. And apart from that, they have certain service level agreements, certain service level objectives, and service level indicators, SLO, SLI, and SLAs, and also with defined error budget as well.
Shall I add something like a few more, like short and sweet, like the books which I read, like what I understood, like both different between SRE and DevOps. It's like in Anurag's slides, there are some slides, right? I mean, circles, like the feedback part. So the DevOps basically check what went wrong and inform the development team. The operation is informing development team what went wrong. So SR is mainly, if you read short and sweet, how to rectify this issue, and inside this issue, they're going inside the issue and how to rectify it. So it's like what and how, like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I see another question about DevOps and DevSecOps.
Yeah.
It's from Prasad, I think.
Yeah.
There are too
That's
many
right.
very hard to find questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me point it out. I think that's what he meant. He has corrected down below as well. So he's asking any thoughts about DevSecOps.
Yeah, so before answering that, there are a lot of misconceptions and fake stuff. So I have heard about fake DevOps, fake SRE, fake DevSecOps as well. So in terms, like, I've been doing a lot of studies on DevSecOps as well. So in what I think is DevSecOps means not just doing the security test or doing a sort of penetration test at the delivery time. It should be happening throughout the DevOps process, from the CI to CD, from the pre-commit stage to the post-deployment stage. The security should be involved in each and every stage. For example, in the pre-commit, you can do a pre-commit hook and do sort of code quality analysis, and a lot of tests are there. When it comes to artifacts, with the Docker images and all, you can do static application or static image scanning. There are a lot of tools, a lot of software, and for the given environments, you can use another dynamic and static scanning, penetration testing, and also there are some specific test tools as well. For example, for Kubernetes, there are a lot of test tools from Aquasec, like KubeHunter, KubeBench. So these are very capable of scanning. Even they found some bugs in GKE worker nodes as well. Yeah, that's how it is. And also further, there's another aspect called chaos testing. It is not related to security directly, but you can do those chaos monkey and chaos testing as well. So that's how I see it should be throughout. It should be happening throughout the process. It's not just a part of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing I see as.
Can we add some like image scanning and code scanning, what vulnerability, and IDS, IPS automations, like how to remediate the stuff, like for example, if something going on, and how to block those traffic from any vulnerable report or something. So it should be automated like that. So it's we can take another session to talk about DevSecOps and other.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's super interested in starting off something around DevSecOps as well. So I think we have time to take two more questions, and there's a little bit of lengthy question which comes from Arjun again. When people start with Kubernetes and DevOps, it somehow makes local application development way harder. Example, interaction between each other, etc. Do you have ideas on how to make it easier?
Yeah. Okay. It's like how I understand is he's asking whether, like, you have a monolith and you're trying to break it down into small microservices and deploy it into Kubernetes, or just porting that entire application into Kubernetes, and how to handle that kind of difficulties, right? So if that's the case, I would say the best thing is to break it into pieces and break it into small services, and you can use it. You can create different pipelines for each service and generate Docker images for each one, and then you can integrate it in the Kubernetes environment. That's one way of doing it. The other way is, you don't need to do always re-architecture, but in order to get the actual benefits from the rich features of Kubernetes, it's better to do kind of architecture porting into that given application, so it will be working efficiently in Kubernetes environment, because Kubernetes handles the container workloads, right? So if the application is too heavy or too bulky, then it's no point of just lifting and shifting your application into Kubernetes. So you can't get the real throughput. So the best thing is to either do re-architecturing, or else you can break it into pieces and working with those small pieces and keeping the bulky component content on premise or in an compute instance.
Awesome. So I think there's like the final question that we can take is from Nilesh. He's asking around. Yeah.
Of course, obviously, as I explained earlier, I think Nilesh missed that part, the monitoring and the telemetry, because it's a key component of DevOps and one of the key principles. So you have to capture these metrics from the pre-commit to the post-deployment, and from that point onwards in the production as well. So especially there are certain different criteria to measure how successful your DevOps is. So for example, like your failure rate, your build frequency, your build time, likewise, and number of changes. Like there are a lot of parameters to capture, and also there are a lot of tools also, especially with GitLab. You have a lot of metrics capturing tool and Grafana and a lot of other representation methods. Monitoring is a very crucial thing, and you have two types of monitoring: proactive and reactive monitoring. So there are a lot of policies and tooling around it, and like I can see Rohan also mentioned, yes, telemetry is one of the key things to stay in touch with the KPIs and how we are meeting these in a given platform. Yeah, it is.
That's something to Nilesh question about the observability. Yes, it's a very pivotal part of the DevOps cycle. If I say, like, there are three pillars of observability, mainly like logs, metrics, and traces. Traces mainly where you may be familiar with, like things called APM, application platform monitoring. So you can check the bottleneck. It's not observability is not like we can't say mainly the monitoring, but yes, it's part of monitoring, but it's deeper than that. Like okay, monitoring, we usually check what went wrong, but the observability is like why and what are the reasons. Like that, we can trace down a bottleneck. Let me give you a good example. We had with the personal experience. There are some code execution times are very, very long, which were consuming more SQL execution query time. Then thanks to one of these tracers, we would able to bottleneck what are the bad queries and improve them, and really improve them and push them to the production the next release. So that's the observability is really, really important to keep your application running smoother.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think all of us had a very thorough understanding about DevOps related questions. And if you have any questions, please do comment as well. Our speakers will be able to answer you after the event also. So I think we actually have come to the end of the program, and I would like to thank Anuradha and Zach for joining us today. And it was very informative session, and hope it was very informative for you as well. And if you think this should be listened or seen by any of your team members, please do share the link with them as well. And hope our viewers learned something from discussion. And if you have questions, please do comment. And I'm sure there were a couple of questions which we weren't able to answer, but rest assured our speakers will be able to answer you later on as well. And don't forget to like this video and to share it across with your friends, and also to subscribe to Cloud Colombo YouTube channel, because next week we'll be bringing a different type of a topic, so you could get a different perspective about cloud and how you could kind of get involved as well. So I think that actually wraps up our first Cloud Colombo session, which we spoke about DevOps and how to demystify a lot of areas. So with that, stay safe, stay healthy. Cloud Colombo, over and out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Bye bye.
Yes. Bye bye.